All right. So first off, there was a stream last night on Hustler Casino Live, and there was a hand that took place between Garrett, longtime, much loved player on the show, and Robbi Jade Lou, who I'm not as familiar with, but I think she's been on the show before. And people are saying that she's relatively new in poker. I think that she's probably been around for a while, judging by the fact that she's been coached by some prominent players in the community. She's been in a lot of different tournaments. So I wouldn't call her like a beginner by any means, but somewhere in between, you know, recreational and pro maybe. But they got into this hand last night. So let's watch the hand. And then we'll talk a little bit about what happened and what we think actually went down here. Let me make sure my head's not in the way of things. We can do this like that. All right.
That was like one of his first TV appearances.
One of his first ones, yeah. That was like.
So Garrett, it looks like this is a 3-blind game. Plus a straddle. So I think that Garrett is in the 3rd blind. So he's the 400. So the blinds are 100, 200, 400, and I think there might be a straddle to 800. So Garrett opens to 3K in the 3rd blind, and Robbi is in effectively the straddle. So she's pretty much calling any 2 cards in this scenario because there's so much money in the pot. She's getting a really good price. I'm not surprised by defending any 2 here.
No. Wow, Robbi really mixing it up here, calling Garrett's raise with.
Like, I don't think it's that surprising that she defends the straddle here, if that's where she was at right now.
Jack 4 off. It's blind versus
if the
blind,
graphics are right.
Garrett here has flopped a straight flush draw, 10-10-9 with a couple clubs. He's gonna bet 2,500.
So Garrett has a standard c-bet here. I think strategically he could mix up a check raise, a check call, or a c-bet. I don't think anything is bad here. Robbi has an easy float in position. She has the jack of clubs. That's going to be strong enough to float here in position. I think a lot of players were already jumping at her for like playing loose, but so far this hand is completely standard.
Wow, and Robbi's gonna call here with Jack 4. With
like that's why it's weird that Bart's like so surprised about her calling, because like you have a backdoor straight flush and you're in position. You're not folding the jack of clubs very often. If anything, she probably could even raise the flop.
The jack of clubs. Turn is a 3, puts backdoor hearts down. And this is usually when Garrett will lay the hammer down with combo draws. She's got 1 club and 1 heart, and wow, look at this. What is she thinking about here? Is she gonna raise it?
Okay, so this is where it starts to get a little weird. Robbi puts in a raise in position against Garrett on the turn. Now, getting to the turn with an absolute garbage hand, that's fine, but putting the raise in once you get there without much additional equity is kind of just I don't know if it's a great play or what you would want to call this play. I would never think to do this here. It's possible that it's not crazy out of line, raising with a very polarized range on turn in position, with the thought process that she's going to bluff a club on the river or something. I don't know. But she does take this line.
We saw her raise ace-king a little bit ago for a min raise. Here she's
also, it is like a very, very small raise. So if she was going to use a polarized hand for this raise here, it doesn't make a lot of sense to just min click it back.
Click. I think he's considering bet 3-betting, and yep, there's the all-in.
So Garrett,
there's the all-in.
3-bet shoves on the turn.
Garrett, like I said, he's just
with
so
8 high, and this is where it just gets weird.
And bet patterns, bet sizing. Just gonna put a time chip out.
This is why you shouldn't be in hands like this.
She doesn't have a 3.
I call.
She calls?
You call me with a jack high? You call me with a jack high?
A little bit of an edit there from Poker
Once, but
News.
it's up to you. Yikes.
Oh my God.
Let's see the hands. So far, so good. It looks
Love
like
it.
you're ahead.
What is going on here?
Prefer once, but it's up to you.
Is it possible that her hand might be misread in the card graphics or something?
So it's really weird. Like, she just feel like I get really uncomfortable energy right now between obviously Garrett, who's just like, I have 8 high. I'm probably not in good shape. And Robbi, who I don't know if she even has realized what she has right now. Like, she claims that she misread her hand, but
Shitty hand.
You do? Yikes.
No, I just thought he's. This is a pure bluff catcher. I'm dealing with right now.
With Jack high?
But yeah, I don't have. I think he has me beat.
We'll go to the river. The river is a 9.
That one's you for sure.
They're gonna run it
Unless you have, like, pocket
twice,
five
and
or
I think
something.
so.
she's
You have,
gonna.
like, small pair?
You give me that much credit?
kind of weird that she's not saying like what she has at this point. Like, just say you have Jack high, right? Like,
I don't know.
Haven't you seen what I've
She's
done?
good with the first one.
because there's a lot of weird banter.
Oh. No.
Like, she refuses to turn her hand up. I don't understand.
If the cards are correct.
Like, she doesn't want to show her hand.
And the river breaks out again.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Wow.
I want to.
So she sees his hand and then she starts giving him another speech. Like, still hasn't turned over her hand, by the way.
Does she have Jack?
There you go.
4?
Now she turns it over. And Garrett sees it and his face just goes like
What?
dead pale.
Look at. Whoa, look at Garrett's face. That's
some fucking poker right there.
That was sick.
Wow.
That's strong.
That was sick. Oh, shit.
that is super, super strange. You can see his reaction.
He's just literally not saying a word.
What?
Ma'am? Very nice.
Meanwhile, Rip, the guy with the cowboy hat, is like saluting her for making the call and beating Garrett in the pot.
You look like you want to kill me,
He
Garrett.
wants to vomit.
I was not in the hand. I want to vomit.
Wow.
I'm speechless. I'm speechless. I mean, usually Garrett would be fairly congratulatory if somebody made a hero call like that, but
He has a blocker to the straight
he
flush.
seems somewhat disturbed here by what just happened. I don't.
Call of the year right there.
I'll get into the chat in a second after the hand's done.
It's literally like the sort of most disturbed look that I've ever seen Garrett give.
We can pause the feeling.
No, let me tell you what happened. 10,000, mid-range 20, shove, call.
And obviously, the reason why he'd be that is how
His
can she
mouth is just
call?
agape, like still like processing what happened.
Like maybe he thinks that she saw his hand somehow, or I don't know.
Nothing. I think nothing happened.
The flop goes bet call. The turn goes bet raise shove
Oh,
call.
like what? What do you mean, like rate?
128.3. bet, 20,000 mini raise.
No, before the flop.
Before the flop. Before the flop. I don't
I
128.3.
think it was $2,500.
Oh, look
I
at
don't
that.
understand sort of what's happening right now.
Andy.
This is a new pot, right?
Like, my first thought would be, did you see my hand? Right? Because that's probably the most likely of things that could have happened if there was any wrongdoings. So my first instinct is like, was I covering my cards? Was anyone able to see my hand? Because aside from cheating, just like getting a glimpse of someone's hand perhaps is like, you know, the most explainable thing that could have happened.
I would have been out.
What do you mean if your jack wasn't a club?
She had a blocker.
You know you've let me do this to you several times now.
Yeah.
I don't know.
This is bizarre where she starts on like she goes from like completely embarrassed to like you let me do this to you. Like her mentality just switches like 180
I'm
degrees.
just testing it. And
This
you just
doesn't
keep
seem super
letting
funny
do
to
this.
me,
And
honestly,
no,
at all,
like
but
when
how
you
much
bet,
money
when
is
you bet that like high big
Yeah.
stack, why did
I
you go on
don't
it
need to
twice?
say
I thought you were on ace high. Ace high.
She says she thought he was on ace high, but then calls with
And then, so why call with Jack High then?
jack high.
First of all, a little bit of a straight draw. I have blockers on there.
No.
I think she still thought she had a 3 at this point, according to her. So when she says, I thought you had ace high, I think she might be thinking she had a 3. And she's just really like disoriented at this point.
So you called all in on the turn because.
Yeah, because you don't have shit.
That's right. She
You don't
thinks
have
you can't beat a
shit.
jack high.
It's not about what I have. It's about what I don't think you have when you.
So she does go on this like rant about it's not about what I have, it's about what you have. But she's kind of bouncing all over the place with her logic.
Yeah, jack queen of clubs.
75. You let me do this to you post stream too. Last time we played. I'm like, you're gonna keep letting me. Okay, 50, 75.
Okay. So that's the hand. Pretty wild. Lot to take in. But first thought is there's 2 explanations, I think, in my mind. There's she literally misread her hand and thought she had a 3 and had this weird fancy play syndrome move on the turn. Totally possible. The other is there's some kind of weird knowledge of what Garrett has, and she has that knowledge. Those are the 2 most reasonable explanations I can think of. There's a lot of weird things that happen during the hand where she's contradicting herself, though. Like she first says she misread her hand, and then she says like, or she thought she had a 3. She says like, is a 3 good during the hand? And then she doesn't even have a 3, and she looks at her cards before calling. So you'd think she knows she doesn't have a 3. Maybe she was just like trying to put him on a hand or something with a speech play. And then it's all really muddy because she then turns on him after the hand, after she wins, like lecturing him like, oh, you let me do this to you. Like that's kind of a weird thing to do if you did misread your hand, to like take this stance of like, I just wrecked you now. You know, like if you misread your hand, you'd probably be like, oh man, I'm so sorry. I misread my hand. I thought I had a 3. Literally problem over. Garrett can understand that. But because I think she like takes a hard stance on being like, no, Garrett, this is your fault. You let me do it to you. That I think just really rattled Garrett and caused him to go down this weird, like, you know, rabbit hole of like, what's going on here? Like, this feels weird. So I'm just explaining what happened. My opinion on the matter is that there's 2 options. Like I said, either she misread her hand and then got really embarrassed and backpedaled hard and then tried to come up with some valid reason as to why she called instead of just telling him that she misread her hand, or she had some extra knowledge, and how she obtained that knowledge could be a variety of different ways. I think a lot of people are just assuming some weird RFID, like super using, like the Mike Postle situation, but that is like such a rare and hard thing to do in a stream like this where they don't allow you any devices. But there's plenty of ways you can cheat in live poker. Like there's not just one exclusive way of hard cheating in poker to get information. So the thing that's crazy is that there's a ton of different things you can do. You can mark cards. You can even like wear glasses that can reveal marks on cards. There's all sorts of crazy things that are out there that you can do. So you know, the conspiracy theorists can delve real deep on this one if they see any kind of weird device. Maybe why does she have her water bottle on the table? You know, what's with her glasses color? Like, there's so many things you could evaluate if there's some like sussery going on in the hand. But I think the most simplistic explanation is she messed up and she's not been handling it well since. That's the most simplistic answer. The most complicated answer is maybe she's cheating in some advanced way. But then even if she is cheating in some advanced way, why would she choose this spot to do it? Why would she choose this hand to do it? It just doesn't make any sense. Either way, like, get your money in as a 48% dog. If you're cheating, that's not how you want to cheat. If you plan to cheat, you want to look good by making a river call, setting yourself up in position. She was in position to make a huge call by the river. That's probably how you would want to cheat, right? It just, nothing really adds up here. I think it's more likely that there's a misunderstanding in a lot of different ways and a lot of weird ego going around and a lot of weird talk happening. But let's look at what Hustler Casino said about the situation. Hustler Casino Live would like to address the hand and the situation in question tonight on our show. Hustler Casino Live will be doing a thorough look into this incident. We will be looking into every aspect of this incident before putting out results of our findings. We completely understand the magnitude of this situation and accusations. We take this extremely seriously. At this point, we have no proof either way or any indication of any wrongdoing besides the accusations of parties involved. During the investigation, parties involved will not be played on our show until we have a resolution to this matter. So both people are now not able to play until they figure out what the heck happened. We here at Casino Live are extremely confident in our game security. Game security integrity are the most important to us. Hustler Casino Live was not involved and will not be involved in any monetary exchanges between the parties. Hustler Casino Live had no part in those exchanges. That is between the parties involved. Hustler Casino Live will continue as usual with our live stream cash games. Respectfully, Nick Fertucci and Ryan Feldman. So the thing that they're addressing in the second part is that after the incident happened, it gets really strange. After the incident happens, apparently Robbi and Garrett had a conversation, and the idea of Robbi wanting to keep Garrett on the show and not leaving and wanting to make him happy, so she ends up giving him his money back. According to Garrett, she brought up the suggestion to give the money back to Garrett. So apparently Robbi gave back the money she won from him in that hand back to Garrett. And then Garrett was supposed to come back and play on stream. Then some more drama happened where Rip, the guy in the cowboy hat at the table, he apparently being some kind of business partner or friend of Robbi, came over and told off Garrett for taking the money from Robbi, and then Garrett got, he just probably became overwhelmed, just didn't want any part of anything anymore, and just wanted to get the heck out of there. Didn't want any more extra drama with Rip. Rip really went at him. You can hear it in the live stream, cursing and yelling and everything. So that was the extra added drama on top of the actual hand that happened. So now it's kind of like in this weird limbo of did they cheat? Did Robbi cheat? Did Garrett overreact? Was it all a misunderstanding? It's kind of crazy. So looking at Garrett's post here, Garrett makes some pretty clear accusations, I would say, that Robbi was in fact cheating. And we can go over that really quickly here. he starts off by saying, I'll likely have more to say about what happened on today's stream later on, but a few thoughts. Personally, I think he probably should have let this marinate a little longer before making a post like this, because he's probably still high off of emotion. He's probably still very confused on what happened, and he probably doesn't have all of the information at this point, right? But this is what his thoughts were fairly soon after the event. You can see it says 10:45, I think, on the top left on his phone note, and that's not that much longer after I think it happened, if I'm not mistaken. So poker is an extremely complicated, nuanced game. I don't fault anyone who watched the hand and doesn't conceptually understand how it's impossible to call on the turn there, but I will give a very brief explanation. An explanation Robbi fully understands if you watch her 11 hours of prior footage. So already he's starting to like hint that this hand was very strange, but maybe also related to how she's been playing previous. Jack 4 offsuit on 10-10-9-3 has a very little equity, overwhelming majority of my semi-bluff hands, let alone all my made hands, which have her dead. So he's going into like the poker strategy part of this, but I don't think this is very relevant. I don't think she understands the poker strategy clearly. When she was trying to explain herself in the hand, she was just kind of, word salading, as people have been saying, like just throwing in all sorts of words to try and make it sound like she knows what she's talking about. But I don't think she's on that level of like, okay, what are Garrett's bluffs? What are his value hands? How is my hand line up against that? I think she's more or less thinking, does he have, worse than, if she thinks she misread her hand, does he have worse than a 3, or does he have always better than a 3? That's what her mindset probably is in that moment. And so, yeah, so she continues with that train of thought, and Garrett's like, no, this makes zero sense. This is why, look at the strategy. So he starts explaining the strategy. 3-bet semi-bluff all in hands for me like ace king or ace x of clubs, or even a hand as weak as queen jack, have jack 4 nearly drawing dead. Compared this situation to a wild jack high river call down spot where, say, the board is ace king queen, have absolutely nothing in common with this situation. So if she had just like called down in this situation with a ace high or something like that, it probably wouldn't have been as crazy if she hadn't raised the turn in position to then call off a jam. I think that's what's really tripping him up here. Furthermore, I've played and reviewed the stream from 2 other prior sessions with this player. Kind of crazy that he was able to do this. I guess maybe he reviewed it right after the session. Yeah, that makes sense. So right after the session, he played it prior, then he reviewed it and went over it, I'm sure. So he has an idea of how she plays. Not only did she never consider making a call anywhere close to this before, but she instead very often folded bluff catchers to river bets, only calling when her hand was quite strong. Now all of a sudden she is playing a 10x stack size compared to before and is calling. Where's the second page? Sorry. There we go. And now it's calling a huge overbet shove with no pair, no draw. So he's saying this is just way out of character for her. I'm well aware the scariest, easiest way for someone to cheat his live stream is to have a device hidden that simply vibrates to indicate you have the best hand. This is such a weird thing that we've like locked in on about the vibrating. It's so weird. I don't know why everyone's so honed in on this one way of cheating about getting information in something vibrating. Right? Like I was mentioning, there's a million ways to cheat in live poker. It's nothing new. There's been cheating since the beginning of this game. I've seen cheating myself a lot happen at the World Series of Poker constantly. People mark cards, people sit certain ways in their chair so they can like see the pitch cards that are coming off the dealer's hand. Like there's all sorts of different ways that you can cheat. So I don't think that something vibrating is what I would go to indicate that there was some cheating here. I'm sure the plan was to min raise the turn and win the hand on the river when I don't improve. So he's kind of forcing his opinion on the matter, which is not good because you don't know what the heck she's thinking, right? But that all changed when I read her for extremely weak on the turn and made an unorthodox play by raising all in. I don't think that's that unorthodox. I think his jam is kind of fine. I don't know why he thinks it's crazy to jam there. At that point, she would know she still has the best hand if she had such a hidden device. So he's honing in on this hidden device again. And her lack of more in-depth poker knowledge made it so she didn't understand that calling would always be a dead giveaway she was cheating. I don't think this is true. But yeah, I think that, yeah, I don't think that it's a dead giveaway she's cheating calling there, because of the explanation that she misread her hand is still very much in play here. And even if she, yeah, I think she needs to, like, if it happened that she misread her hand, she needs to state that very clearly, because that's maybe the only explanation for why she can call in that spot. Or she just got emotionally upset and just wanted to see his hand and thought maybe she was full of, you know, crap and had some kind of low card combo that she somehow could beat some frequency of the time, right? Maybe she just like thought she could beat these hands at some small frequency and was priced in after min raising the turn. Who knows? Greed in a 270k pot once she calls correctly may also have played a role in the moment. Another common way of cheating is someone has the technology to know who will have the best hand at showdown by hacking into the card. This is a bit of a reach. Hacking into the card reader in the end, there's obviously no way at the moment to know exactly how I was cheated, and it will be extremely difficult to ever get to the bottom of it. Those that think cheating is impossible despite HCL's security precautions are misguided. I do agree with that. I think that cheating is obviously possible even on a live stream in front of lots of people. We've seen it before. We saw it with the guy who was leaning back and looking at the guy's cards. I would consider that cheating. The only thing I'm certain of is there is zero chance HCL ownership is involved. They are my friends. I trust them completely, and they would never be a part of this. I do think, though, if you are saying that cheating is possible, you can't count out that people are involved. If you're so adamant that there is cheating going on, you have to then be open to the fact that maybe your friends have been screwing you over this whole time, right? I would never play on any stream at all if I thought there was even a very small chance ownership production was involved in me being cheated. It simply wouldn't be worth my time or anxiety. After the hand, her body language and word salad explanations, there's the word salad thing again, explanations on why she called the turn on camera are also extremely suspicious. I do agree with this. This is kind of just bizarre. Like, she just started word salading all sorts of things that didn't line up with what she was stating that she misread her hand. About how she outplayed me, she immediately becomes very defensive with nervous chatter. Yeah, that was weird. Putting it all together, I immediately felt very concerned about foul play. After having a conversation with co-Reiner Feldman, he amicably agreed that the three of me, Ryan, and her should have a conversation. And that's where this all comes to the point where, where they give back where Robbi gives back the money to Garrett. Ryan then tried to explain to her it wasn't very... Okay, let me back up here. Most of that off-camera conversation was more of her going on and on trying to justify the play in a way that came across very incriminating. Ryan then tried explaining to her that it wasn't us she needed to convince, as it was about to go viral. So this is kind of like a weird power dynamic where, you know, you have one girl who is talking to two guys who are friends, who are kind of like already grilling her. She doesn't have anyone there to like support her. So I really don't like this situation where it's a three-way conversation about her cheating. Yeah, because of course things happen, power dynamics get thrown around. Maybe what Garrett said, which you'll see in a second, was out of line. But this is what was said. I then said, Robbi, this is likely to be viewed by millions of people. So he's already kind of trying to pressure her. Her face clearly melted once I said this. Of course, that's going to happen because you're putting pressure on her and she's just trying to play poker at this point. Fully realizing for the first time what she had gotten herself into. And then I continued, I think you know now you fucked up. So this is like already just straight up accusing her, right? This is him getting into her face right after it happens, accusing her of cheating without any evidence. And I don't agree with how he handled this. This is a really bad look for Garrett, and I think that he really needs to be careful with how he handles things in the future, because this is just unacceptable. At this point, we were all about to start walking back toward the stage as I didn't know what else to do. At that point, she says to me, do you want me to pay you back what you lost in the hand? knowing A, this was likely the closest I would ever get to a confession, and B, how impossible it is to get refunded in cheating scandals. I took her up on the offer. Ryan neither encouraged nor discouraged her from doing this. To be clear, I never asked for a refund. I never even considered asking, as it would be such an... 1 minute, let me get some water real quick. This is a long one. Sorry, guys. Okay. Almost there. It would be such an obvious admission of guilt on her end, but once she offered, of course, I'm going to accept my money back after being clearly cheated. So he's stating he was cheated. Another note, she didn't misread her hand. She knew she had Jack 4. She looks back at her hand for several seconds straight before calling. This is a direct conflict with her saying in an interview, I didn't look back at my hand to see it was Jack 4. Yeah, like her words just don't line up. She, whatever the reason, whether she is cheating or she's just super nervous and embarrassed at this point, yeah, nothing is lining up. And again, reviewing her prior 11 hours of footage, even her calling with a 3 would be incredibly suspicious. In fact, her line on every street was extremely out of character. Sorry, just making sure I'm not showing a different screen. I tend to do that. Being, okay, out of character compared to prior hands. After getting the money I lost in the hand back, her friend in the game suspiciously... So like... Garrett's clearly just loading this post, right? Suspiciously loses his mind, right? If my friend lost money and then gave it back to someone, I would lose my mind too. Why is that suspicious? Loses his mind at me after being nothing but incredibly cordial in our prior interactions after several threats from him. This is where, yeah, this is where it gets out of line though. He does like confront him and starts cursing at him and threatening him, and that's not okay. I decided to walk away from the situation, knowing I have zero interest in continuing to play today. I decided to head home. So like, I think Rip losing his mind or like just being really concerned about the situation would be completely normal, but I don't think threatening him and just like getting out of line is okay. I think just being like, how could you like accept this money? What's going on here? Like that's an understandable reaction, but not being like whatever threatening things he said to Garrett. So, I've been in the public eye for nearly the entire of my 20 years in poker, and my reputation in our community is what it is for good reason. If I thought there was any chance I was being cheated, I would not have accepted the refund. Yeah. So I think that's wraps up Garrett's take. And I think that it's a very emotionally charged response. There hasn't been one piece of evidence in his response other than maybe she's using a device, right? Like he doesn't have any actual evidence at this point. So making a post like this is really irresponsible if you don't have solid evidence. You can kind of hint that you felt like there was something going on, but it seems like in this post, Garrett just outright says she cheated, right? He treats it as if she cheated as it's fact, and this is what happened afterward. So then let's take a look at what Robbi said. Robbi made a post on Twitter afterwards. There's a couple of videos too that went on at Hustler Casino, but I'm not going to show those. I'm just going to show the aftermath because this kind of gives you an idea more of something that maybe not, you know, that wasn't said under duress or during a high emotions, right? Like maybe the tweets are still off of high emotions, but at least maybe they're more coherent or give you a solid reason that you can't go back and rewrite the reason on Twitter, right? So Robbi says, I read the man and make a hero call after he shoves on a turn brick card, get over it. So this is a really weird stance to take if you've already said you misread your hand. Like if you say you misread your hand, you can't have both. You can't say that you made a hero call after he shoves on the turn, because a jack high call isn't a hero call. That's not even a good, like, it's just not a call. It's just a spew. Like you're literally just spewing your money away in this scenario. Because like Garrett said, strategically, Garrett shouldn't have any hands that are a dog to that jack high, right? So the fact that she's now taking this stance that she's making a hero call and then says get over it is a really weird 180 aggressive like play to make here. And then she says, I'll say it again, like I've said before, I'm not playing nice in the sandbox anymore. So she doubles down on this weird aggressive, like, I wrecked you, you made a mistake, get over it. Like, and then she says, make it right afterwards. What a weird turnaround, right? I've already moved on, I'll make it back either way. So super confident now from someone who's played on this show maybe once or twice. And yeah, this just doesn't add up, right? Like this is just, I don't know what to say about this response. It's definitely surprising. And it doesn't help her at all to be absolved of cheating. If anything, it makes it more sketchy, right? So then she comes up with this post. It looks like, when was this? Today at 11 a.m. So like an hour ago. She says, Garrett, I've got an idea. After I'm vindicated, let's go play heads up. Like, what? How do we go from all of this, right? Like, what? I'm so confused. Oh, we missed a tweet in between as well. So after this tweet, I guess last night, this tweet was made at 1:05 in the morning of the night, and she says, Garrett blocked me, guilty as charged. What an honest man. He concerned me and threatened me. If he has the audacity to give me the death stare on camera, picture what it's like off camera. I was pulled out of the game and forced to speak to him in a dark hallway. Whoa. Okay, so now we're taking this weird turn that Garrett was like super hardcore intimidating her off the felt, and she felt like threatened. Now she's going into like victim mode about being like accosted by Garrett. This is serious. It's starting to get real serious, and the truth is now super muddied. Because we have a he said, she said, the camera wasn't on when they had the meeting, and the only eyewitness was Ryan Feldman, who is friends with Garrett. I guess Rip kind of went there too afterwards. I don't know. But yeah, this is not good. And then she posts after that, Garrett, I have an idea. After I'm vindicated, let's go play heads up. Like, what? Like, you just said you were like scared for your life. Garrett was giving you a death stare off stream. Imagine what that's like. And now you want to play him heads up? Like, what? It's just, I'm so confused now. Like, I can't understand. Nothing makes sense at this point. It's just, it's constantly like trying to be turned into something off of a single bad call on the turn. You could see them standing right outside the card room. Yeah, like you could see some of it happening on camera. It looked like they were at a poker table. Is that incorrect? I don't know. Maybe it was incorrect. Maybe they had the conversation in the hallway, and then they came out to the poker table, and that's where Rip went over to see them. So it's possible they were in like a hallway or something like that before they all were hanging out on the camera there. Yeah, this is pretty wild. So like at this point, I don't think there's anything else that was said. This was her last tweet an hour ago. Looks like. And then she makes a comment on Negreanu's post about it, saying, yep, thank you for recognizing the truth. And then she responds to, I guess she went on stream with some people to clear up some stuff. But yeah, so she's saying whatever Negreanu said was true. So Negreanu tweets earlier today, about an hour ago, I've played 30 years now and have seen lots of strange things from amateur players that aren't logical and usually occur due to being in a high stress situation and having a brain fart. Example, amateur checks back king on the river on a king jack 2-3 river. If her opponent had quads, people would be questioning this outrageous checkback that was born out of fear and being flustered by the moment, and some may interpret this as nefarious. I've seen players check back the nuts, call with the board on the river, call when they couldn't be beat by my board and stud on the river. This happens even more under the lights and cameras in the world watching. Fear anxiety can lead to some real brain farts, and I think that is exactly what we saw with this Jack 4 hand. So he's taking the side that Robbi was just flustered, embarrassed, misread her hand, all of the above, right? On the opposite side, you have Sean Deeb, who just thinks she straight up cheated, right? He says that, see some people who want to bet she didn't cheat, willing to bet on she did cheat, let me know. So he's even just betting on the fact that she was cheating. I don't know how he's going to win that one, but because there's just no hard evidence as far as I know so far. But maybe some hard evidence might come out. Maybe there's some crazy conspiracy that, makes her state that there was cheating going on. I think Sean's angle here is to get an arbitration for whoever he bets with. And the arbitration is going to be a panel of poker players that are going to most likely think she cheated, right? That's probably Sean's way of winning bets. He doesn't make dumb bets. He's kind of a hustler in that way. So don't ever bet with Sean Deeb. He's probably just trying to bait you right now. But yeah, so a lot of players in the community are definitely taking a side without all the information, which I think is a huge mistake. I think it's irresponsible. That's why I'm not going to take a hard stance. I just think that this is my stance here. I agree with Isaac Haxton on the matter. He tweeted, "The hand doesn't make any damn sense, so it's tempting to assume cheating. That was my initial impulse, but if you do assume cheating, it doesn't make any more sense. I just have no idea what happened, and I don't see how anyone else could either." I 100% agree with him on this one. I think that the whole situation just doesn't make sense, right? There's so much he said, she said. There's so much twisting of words. There's so much a contradiction in stories, mainly on Robbi's side, of course. But to explain why the contradictions are there, you have to just keep going down a rabbit hole until we see some kind of actual cheating or maybe some prior accusations against maybe Rip or against Robbi. Then it feels like one of those weird situations that we're not going to get resolved unless something comes out. Yeah, so that's what's going on exactly with this situation.